Hello and welcome to the Ask Aviator podcast number 37. I said it was 37 last time, and I got it wrong. So this is actually episode number 37, which is interesting because those are my two favorite numbers.
Are they?
So I brought in my favorite guest.
Aww.
For those of you guys who don't know this beautiful woman across from me, her name is Nelle, or Danielle. She goes by Nelle.
Yes.
And she's been married to this mess for 10 years, 5 months almost.
Sounds good.
Holy crap. When did we get old?
A long time ago. About 3 kids ago.
About 3 kids ago. Yeah, so we wanted to have Nelle on the show. She's been on with the family a couple of times, and at least once, and we wanted to do kind of a different show tonight to talk about what our last year's been like and why you learned to fly when you learned to fly, because you've been flying since November.
Yes.
How many flights are you up to?
42.
42?
The answer to everything.
Man, we got the right numbers going. If there's no Hitchhiker's Guide people in here, you guys need to be. William says hi.
Hi, William. William was in my class.
William was the man. William needs to come back and fly with us.
True story. I saw William's Instagram story this morning, and he was driving, and there was fog in the background, and I thought, he's coming down to fly.
And he wasn't.
Then he went to Disney, which I'm sure was awesome also. But William, come fly.
Yes, William, get here. All right, so obviously lots of stories to be told, lots of answers to be made of questions that will happen later, and we'll get to all of those. We lost visual. I know. I'm very sorry, guys. We're repairing.
Broke your camera already?
Well, I couldn't handle your beauty.
Gummit.
No. So Kelby says he's blind. Jason says blackout. Adrian says battery down. Yes, we are getting it fixed right now. I'm not sure what's wrong with it, but we don't have video up yet.
This is the
there it is.
Perfect time to eat chocolate. It's gonna be fine.
So let's go ahead and start by explaining what all you brought for the podcast, because I heard you telling Kate earlier, and it was kind of hilarious.
Well, I'm well prepared. I'm a good Boy Scout. Always prepared. So I have water, because 2020 is my year of hydration.
That's a good year. Water.
Chocolate
Because
that I stole from Eric's office.
Which, admittedly, I bought for the staff for Valentine's Day, and then they didn't want that one, so I got to keep the special dark chocolate with almonds.
Also gin, because gin.
Because gin. Because it's, the one night a week that we have to start having a beverage early. All right. So she came prepared. I guess we should tell a story of how we got together or something, because it's kind of interesting.
Sure.
It's a funny story.
It is a funny story.
So 11 years ago, just over 11 years ago, I had a 1970 Volkswagen Bug, which I was in the midst of restoring. And by restoring, I mean putting better exhaust on it and painting it.
You were living in California at the time.
I was living in San Clemente, California at the time, and I was going to drive it from there to Seattle and open a business up there. I was launching a business with a partner up there, and then we're coming back. And so before I went, I wanted to paint the car because I'm a photographer. I want to have nice pictures of my pretty car, and at that point it was about 18 different shades of white. So I posted on Facebook and I said, "What color should I paint my Bug?" And I, elicited a few responses, and probably the best response was, now that you have chocolate in your mouth.
I thought you were going to go on. You should paint it red, just the color of your favorite childhood friend's hair. So, backstory, we grew up together, but there was never any interest between us.
So not only did we grow up together, so our parents illegally began homeschooling after they met in Lamaze class for our older siblings, our mothers.
Yes.
So they were very, very close friends.
We were 36 years ago.
Yeah, 36, 37 years ago. Yeah. They both started a homeschool group. There was 5 moms. Now there's like 5,000 locally, something like that, I've heard.
I don't know how many.
From the same group, which is pretty crazy. And we were in the same social circle, which meant we saw each other once a month at 4-H. Yes, guys, I was homeschooled and did 4-H. That is correct. But there was never anything. I mean,
no.
You wore denim jumpers. I
never wore a denim. You keep
orange,
saying that.
Orange denim.
It was orange. It wasn't denim. It was jersey.
I was this 6'4", 130-pound goon of a guy who just wanted to fly and talk about flying, didn't care about anything else.
And I was tall, thin piano knitting
Braces.
nerd. I never wore braces and glasses at the same time. They missed each other by about 3 months.
So she leaves this comment, and her profile photo is ravishing. And I've been gone for a few years. At that point, about 4 years, I've moved away and lived all over the country. And so I do the obvious thing, which is go to her profile photo, and I go, well, maybe if you look like this when we were growing up. And she responds to me, she goes, that's the most backhanded compliment I've ever received. And that's how 3 kids came to be.
Yeah.
No, so we decided to arrange a joke date because our hyper-conservative homeschool Christian parents would be freaked out by even the term dating, much less, us dating. And so we went on a date, and then we didn't have our second date till after New Year's, right?
Yeah.
So you went to Colorado. So we went on a date, I think it was the 23rd or 21st.
It was right before Christmas.
Of December, rather. And then we sent like 8,000 text messages.
It's a lot of text messages over
in
the next
a week.
10 days.
And the thing is, this is like pre-iPhone. This was
T9 Word.
This was T9, baby. I'm on the Nokia 3310, crushing it out.
We had it down.
So we ended up having our second date. I knew I was going to marry her at that point, and we did get married 9 months later.
We did.
Which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So Nelle has been there for me. I guess I can go into more of the story. We normally don't say this stuff publicly, but I share it at our intro classes because I think it's a profound thing to find someone that supports you the way that you've supported my ventures. And 2 weeks after we got married, or 3 weeks after we got married, we went to San Antonio, Texas. I was speaking at a marketing conference. Did very well. I selling products to the room and did very well. It was the best I'd ever done. And so I spoke Saturday, Sunday, answered questions all day. Monday morning, beautiful man who was a very good friend, who happened to be a masseuse on the side, knocks on the hotel room door and slides me into his massage table for a 2-hour massage because I couldn't walk after events. Yeah. And for me, I've been speaking at events since I was 16, and it was just par for the course. It was like, oh, no, masseuse will be here on Monday. I'll be able to walk after that. And you looked at me like, what the heck? And that night we're sitting in Wimberley, Texas in a hot tub under the stars at these beautiful little cottages my friend built. And she looks at me, she goes, Eric, why don't you quit? She's like, you hate this. I was like, what are you talking about? I finally reached the level of success that I've dreamt of. Like, I worked really, really hard for many years to build the business to the point where I felt the level of success that my peers had. Yeah. And she was right. She's like, you can't walk. And you said, if you can't walk, you can't think, you're so stressed out, don't worry about the money, we'll figure it out. And we did. From extreme highs to extreme lows, it's been quite a journey. We basically gave up a successful business to focus on flying and photography and YouTube and my blog, and it worked. It was... most people would say that we're both crazy. At least you are for allowing that. But there have been so many challenges in this business. I don't think that most people realize how much goes into building a business. We got to the point, we started out of our garage with Aviator, and we were desperate. Our first students, I think, paid $500 or $600, and we were selling a package deal, so we only made a little bit of money on the sale of equipment, and then we tried to get those guys, basically beg them to send their friends. And then as we progressed, as you grow the school, I didn't want to have a school like everybody else's where you had to go and buy the equipment, then go train on your equipment. I wanted to be able to have school equipment, but that was a huge investment. So it took literally every penny we had. And we have a friend who happens to own a mortgage company. And he wasn't a friend before I walked in the door to ask him for a mortgage. And he was our 7th bank that I'd gone to. 7 banks, 7th place I'd gone to. I'd heard about this place. It said, Winter Haven Mortgage Company. And I was like, I guess they do mortgages. Let's go find out. So I walk in the door. I'm met by this guy, Matt. And he told me this is about 3 months before August was born. And we wanted to have we wanted to have the babies at home. And we were living in this ramshackle house. It was concrete block in the middle of an orange grove, black mold everywhere. Yeah. And so we were like, let's go ahead. And we found the house. We're 5 days before our offer is expiring. This guy finances us. And then over the next 5 years, he had our back. Like, we became friends, and there were periods of time where we went 3, 4, 6 months where we couldn't make a payment because we were trying to get Aviator off the ground. They put us on freaking food stamps when we had Eloise. Like, it was so much challenge, and you never once, not once, have you ever been, how are we going to pay for this? What's your secret, and how can you tell all these men how to tell their wives how to not be stressed about money? Because it's like
that's
superpower.
a tall order.
It's a superpower.
Well, I will just experience share here because that's we're working
Gestalt.
we're working toward that in in relationships. I trust you. I trust that even if the bottom falls out of whatever it is that you're working on, that we will find a backup plan and that we will be okay.
Yeah.
I just do believe that we will be okay no matter what life looks like. We'll be okay.
Yeah.
I have no expectations, maybe, of, or I expect idealistic expectations of what life should look like, or maybe specific standards for what life looks like. I'm in for the adventure. I'm here for it.
It's been the adventure.
It has.
It has
It
been
has.
an adventure. The one of the things that I used to do when I would coach companies and individuals is I would always say, okay, figure out exactly how much you have to make every month to meet your nut. So about 4 years ago, as we were in the midst of starting Aviator, it was starting to pick up, and our or my incredible wife's grocery bill was at $25 to $30 a week to feed 3 kids and 2 adults. And oftentimes my brother James, who was living with us, and all these other things, you spent nothing. We ate rice and beans, but we figured out that our nut was $2,340 a month to pay for everything. And, we were putting every other penny into the business. And I figured that I could go serve tables, bartend, or sell cars and make the nut. But I broke my own rule, which was that you should take the 5 days a month to make your nut money and then take the rest of the time. But I was so committed to Aviator. I was like, I have to see this through. So it was like, well, we just won't eat this week. And we never went hungry.
No,
We ate a lot of rice, a lot of fancy ramen.
A lot of fancy
Can you
ramen.
explain fancy ramen?
Fancy ramen. Buy the top ramen package at the store for, I don't know what they're going for right now.
At that point, it was 11 cents, which I thought was really high because when I bought them in high school, they were like 5.
Well, we'd buy the box, so of course they were cheaper than buying just a single package. You buy the box of 12 or 20 or whatever it is. And then you slice carrots real thin, and you put them in at the last minute so they cook, but they're still al dente. And then you sprinkle in some extra spices, maybe some powdered ginger, things like that. And
A little cilantro.
And then a little cilantro on top.
I actually
Fancy
craved it.
ramen.
I bought some the other day so I can make
We
some.
still disagree on fancy ramen, though, because he likes creamy chicken.
I like creamy chicken mixed with regular chicken.
Who did I marry?
You like beef?
Shrimp's my favorite, but I stopped buying it because you were allergic,
I was allergic.
and I care.
You're very kind. Very kind. All right. So we had our challenges. We had the adventures. I'm going to fast forward some. Many of you guys know some of my story of learning to fly. I had a fairly challenging experience learning to fly physically, emotionally. It was very unprofessional. I left with 2 flights, was told, here's your PPG-2, have a great life. And it wasn't what I had experienced in other aviation as a pilot and as an ultralight flight instructor. It didn't make sense. But then I came home and I proceeded to try to fly a ton. And it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. But one of the stories I like to tell is I think it was my 3rd flight. I can't remember if it was my 3rd flight total or my 3rd flight on my own.
It was in that 5 or under range.
I took off. I think it must have been my 3rd flight total because the machine, my instructor set it up for me. He had set the torque compensation straps opposite. So as I took off, I'm twisting under the risers. And then as I let off, I untwist and create an oscillation. And the only way, because we teach oscillation control using the tandem, using the towing.
Right.
Like we teach all these different things. And I was taught, if you have an oscillation, hands up, power off. So I'm at like 150 feet. I'm wing is swinging side to side, and I do what I've been taught, which is hands up, power off. So I hands up, power off. I'm heading south over the fields. You guys see us fly here at Aviator all the time. And I'm descending, and I'm still swinging. I'm descending, and I'm still swinging. And I'm descending, and I'm still swinging. And at a certain moment, I go, holy crap, I'm going to hit the ground. So I go full power and snatch full brakes because I'm waiting for this damn thing to stop because I'm supposed to hands up, power off. It sorts itself out.
It solves the problem.
Which is what
solves the problem.
It should have done. If I had any knowledge of anything, I would never have been in this situation. But I am right over a pond just before I hit it. And at this point, I have no flotation because flotation wasn't really a thing at my instructor's place. And I go full power, full bear into a giant blackberry bush. And over the next 3 or 4 months, my average would be like 1 launch out of 6 I would get off the ground, right? 1 out of 5, 1 out of 6. Very, very challenging. But that day, I smashed face first into all these blackberries, my face, my arms, my legs.
You called me. You called me and you said, I'm on my way home. I'm okay. It looks bad. It's not that bad. And he walked in the door and there were just scratches and blood. And
so if you guys want to see a picture, just because it's worth it, if you go to Aviator-official on Facebook and go into my second picture ever posted, there is a picture.
Scroll.
Aviator Show official. Aviator Show official. Yeah. It's worth seeing. You can see my legs. So I crash into this blackberry bush. I pull all my stuff out. It took me an hour to get the wing out. And I lay out in the field, and I took off and flew back. And it was probably the first and only time, because my first launch was my 26th launch attempt, right?
Yep.
My second was probably 5 or 6 launch attempts. My third, 5 or 6 launch attempts. My fourth flight, by George, I got off the ground in the middle of this cow poop-filled field and flew back covered in blood and avgas. And walk in the door, and Nell's like, oh, my God. At that point, we're driving a Toyota Prius with a bicycle rack on the back with my paramotor hanging from the bicycle rack.
Classy.
Oh, man, it was great. That powder blue Prius. So she let me continue to fly, which was cool.
Okay. I'm not a huge fan of that. I did not let you do anything. You do. I'm sorry. I'm a little soapbox
No, continue.
here.
I like it.
I don't feel like I have dictatorship over what you do with your life.
I
feel like I have
what you
room to say something if I have a concern about what you're choosing to do. But I don't feel like there was ever a point where I allowed you to fly.
I'm with you.
And there have been times where I have had concerns, and we've talked about it, and you've been very receptive. And I think there is that give and take there.
It's a lot easier to be receptive and respectful when you're with someone who is never trying to take life from you. They're trying to encourage more.
Sorry, this is our sitter.
Our sitter's talking. Yeah. All right. So let's fast forward 6 years ago, January 5th. I'm flying a paramotor. Tucker's there with me. It's the only time I've ever seen Tucker break a prop. I just want to point out he broke his prop that day before I broke mine. I broke mine more spectacularly. He slipped. Had an issue in flight where the suspension system failed me, and the suspension safety straps that I had on the motor that I'd added because there weren't any were too long. And so it goes into a deep dive. I hit the roof of a house at the Garmin said it was like 89 miles an hour forward and down speed. Slide up the roof, get thrown off, go into the trees, land. I don't know if it was the impact with the house or the impact with the ground, but I break my back in 2 more places. And I've been told by my surgeons and my, what are they called? Brain doctors. What do they call those?
Neurologists?
My neurologists. They told me that if I ever broke my back again, because I broke my back right before I turned 18 in an aircraft incident, they said if I ever broke my back again, I would probably be paralyzed. And so I had a motorcycle accident where I should have hit my head, and somehow I went straight into a telephone pole and went 60 feet past it without hitting it. It was like it vaporized and I went through it. Like totally illogical. And I was like, oh, thank God it saved my life. But then I break my back again. And of course, I had a terrible experience with the EMTs the last time I broke my back, 100 yards from there. So I had my dad come pick me up, and he drove me to our home.
You called me.
I called you. We go to the house. I hobble inside. It's like, I think I might have broken my back. I really hope I didn't. It's not as bad as last time, but I laid on the bed.
It doesn't hurt the same. It's not as intense. The pain is not as intense as last time. So I'm hoping it's not a break.
Now,
But
this was 6 years ago, so Arthur was 8 months old, 9 months old. August is one and a half.
10 months old.
10 months old.
Mm-hmm.
And so they snuggle me on the bed, and then we go the block and a half to the hospital, where they inform me, oh, guess what? You broke your back. Hi. And then they forced us to take an ambulance to Lakeland. This is with no health insurance, because this is right in that timeline where we just don't have money because we're pouring everything back in the business. We were in the midst of switching brands, so we have to liquidate all the equipment we had and buy new equipment, which was much more expensive. So money's non-existent.
The timing is never great to break your back, but this is just really the pits.
To make matters worse, we'd had health insurance right up into the point where Obamacare was instigated, and for whatever reason, our $300 a month health insurance went to $1,800 or $2,800 a month, and we couldn't afford it. We're like, what are we going to do? So we go to Lakeland. They confirm I have a broken back. I broke my back at 7 o'clock in the morning. On the way to the hospital, though, the reason I brought the story up was I remember distinctly telling you, and you remember it differently, but it's my story, so I'm going to tell it my way. I found the video footage that I filmed from that right after the accident.
Wow.
I need to edit it and send it to you or share it with you. I turned to Nelle in the ambulance and I said, "Hey, I'm so sorry. I'll never fly again." And she looked at me and she said, "Eric, if you don't fly again, you're not the man I married, and I'll leave you." Now she remembers it differently, but that's my memory, and I
don't remember the ultimatum.
I don't want to change it. So, yeah, that was a pivotal moment for me where I realized that flying really is a huge part of who I am. This past weekend, I laid to rest two very dear friends, or a very dear friend and a very dear friend's son, who he was an unlimited aerobatic champion, incredible pilot, and they had an aircraft issue, and it killed my friend Mark and 13-year-old Nathan. And the ceremony was incredible, and the thing that came out of it the most, that just flowed through Nathan's parents, through all of Mark's friends, is just the fact that you never want to see someone die doing what they love, but they wouldn't have changed it for the world. You know, like they both love to fly. So I'm very, very encouraged. I've been very encouraged by you every step of the way, which kind of drives me toward what I want to talk about next. I'm trying to lead this on a slow path. There is purpose. I promise there is purpose. So for guys like Yordankis Garcia, save your questions, please. I promise we'll get through questions a bit later. To everybody who's listening in right now, watching, 110 live viewers. That's actually pretty good for us. Like, dude, I think you have a bigger draw than everyone but Tucker. So that's fantastic. Anthony Vela, welcome. Gem CR120. Ripman, everybody, great to have you guys all here. So people have asked for years if you fly paramotors also.
Yes.
You want to kind of walk through? I've been talking a lot. Let me have a drink and catch my breath. Why don't you kind of share your story?
Yeah. So after you started flying and Aviator got started, really, and I was more involved, with the company earlier on, mostly out of necessity because it was out of our home.
People were literally, our students were staying in our guest room.
Yes.
Yeah. That was a thing that happened.
And yeah, we don't do that anymore.
Too many students. We don't have a guest room, so.
Yeah. But the question that became more and more frequent over the years was, do you fly? And or why don't you fly?
Right.
And there's the answers have been kind of all over the board. Really, the bottom line is the timing wasn't right. When we started the business, our first son was less than a year old.
Yeah, he was 10 months old, 8 months old.
And then then his brother was born less than 2 years later, and then less than 2 years later, their sister was born. And so there was just a lot going on with me physically as far as pregnancy and childcare and all that went. And honestly, with the business could not support having me as a student.
We couldn't afford. We could not support you breaking a line, much less a propeller.
Right.
Yeah.
Or taking a slot in class.
Right.
Couldn't support that. Besides, who takes care of a 6-month-old, a 2-year-old, and a 4-year-old for 2 weeks so that
Right.
I can train. It's just, we have fantastic, wonderful family, but it's a big burden on anybody
On anybody, especially for that
who
length
is
of time.
not used to that level
Of
of
chaos.
intensity.
That's one way to call it.
Anyway, so the timing was never right. And the other thing that you and I have talked about before also, a transition that we have been making in our lives in the last year, and it is one of the catalysts to me flying, is that you and I each were not good at prioritizing ourselves.
Not at all. I mean, I grew up in a family that was from the restaurant and hotel to my family's book business.
Hospitality, care
It
for
was
others
always,
first.
yes. I mean, and that's still like our core value at Aviator is like,
Yeah.
how can we serve you? But like, that was my life, you know, and yours too.
Yeah. So I was not prioritizing anything for myself,
Right.
much less flying. And you were not really. Our focus was business and family. And I'm not saying that was a bad focus at all. I'm not saying that I regret it or that we should have done it differently. It was definitely out of balance. We probably could have made some tweaks, but I believe that was
We
another.
probably still could.
Yeah, well, yeah. There's always room for improvement. But I think that was another big reason why. And honestly, it's been almost 4 years ago. I came to you and I said, I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready to fly.
Eloise had stopped nursing,
Uh-huh.
and you were
Our youngest.
yeah, you were kind of in that
And
position.
I
where
was
it's like, okay,
and you weren't ready. And that was okay.
yeah, the business couldn't support it. Didn't
Yeah.
have the time.
The timing was still off.
You know, I told the story about breaking my back and your reaction, but what people don't realize, kind of going back to the struggle part, because I think it's worth mentioning. 1 month, 10 days after my accident, I was teaching again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my brother James did most of the legwork. We taught, it was Eric and James
Yep.
in that class.
Yep.
But yeah, it was, you know, there's a lot of struggle, a lot of challenge. So the timing wasn't right for a really long time. And then in December of last year, there have been lots of challenges. Every marriage has its challenges.
Yep.
So far, it sounds like we have the most idyllic marriage. Like,
We have led people to believe that in the last 20 minutes. Yes.
yes, in the last 20 minutes, it sounds like we never have a fight about money, which is
No.
kind of true. We never have a fight about anything.
Not about money.
She lets me handle all the stress about money. That is true.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more to it. And so I'll tee it up a little bit and let you kind of
Yeah.
tell your story.
I'm gonna knock it out of the park.
The purpose of the story, though, is to highlight something that we do at Aviator. And we say that flying is just our hook. The
Yeah.
reality is, one of my favorite ways I've heard our class described is like AA, but with more drinking. You know, there's a
Cheers to
lot
that.
of salud. There's a lot of things and feelings and whatnot that get exposed, and I think it's because as we're learning to fly, you're forcing your body to do something that's superhuman. You're forcing your body to overcome fear. We say that we help people overcome their fears through flight. That's our goal. But for 10 years, you and I had struggled in some areas of our marriage, in some areas of our life, and in December of 2018, you discovered a whole bunch of Instagrammers and podcasts and stuff that were talking about this book about the Enneagram. I think that was the first step, right?
I can't remember if it was Brene Brown or they came at the same time, the Enneagram information and studies, and beginning to read the author Brene Brown.
Right.
It
So
was that was right around December, January, just over a year ago.
yeah, and so for those people who don't know, which is probably most of you, because I talk to lots and lots of people, and most people don't know what the Enneagram is. The Enneagram is basically, it's a personality test, but you can't take just a test and understand it.
It's more like an analysis.
That's a great
than a
description.
test.
Yeah, it's an analysis. So to explain in more detail, if you take a DISC test or a Myers-Briggs, you get a set of numbers or letters, and those letters will shift throughout your life as your personality changes.
Yeah.
The concept of the Enneagram described in the book Road Back to You, I think, is the best description. He says that the author says something along the lines of, throughout our life, we're forced to wear different masks, right? Different masks that protect us, different masks that project us. The Enneagram is focused on understanding who you are before you put on your very first mask. And that very first mask is called personality.
Yep.
So as she's starting to dive into understanding what she is, who she is, what her needs are, what her struggles are, you're an Enneagram 2. Do you want to describe it so people can understand? There's 9 numbers, and it's very interesting.
Yeah.
It's
so the concept is that there are 9 personality types, and that whatever type you are, that doesn't shift.
Right.
Through your life.
Throughout your life, you are what you are, what you are.
And there's lots of other integers at play with wings and all kinds. We could nerd out about just this
for
a
hours.
whole podcast.
Hours and hours.
But as an Enneagram 2, some of my strengths are a nickname for the 2 is helper. So I am great at meeting other people's needs. I am fairly intuitive at seeing what would be helpful to people, specifically in physical, practical ways. Trying to think what else.
But there's always a flip side.
Yeah. I am a helper, and I can see other people's needs and fulfill them, but it's very difficult for me to, as a deep challenge for me to assess the own needs in my life and to give them any value and to pay attention to them and give myself what I need. My
favorite line is that your goal for this week was that you need to figure out what your needs are.
Yes.
It's like, yep. So we went into this path. We call it this kind of our year of healing. First to understand ourselves, and then to work on ourselves. And with that was a lot of therapy, a lot of work trying to understand some of the deeper wounds that you've had. And I promise this is all going to tie back to aviation, guys. I promise. I think my wife's one of the most interesting people in the world, so I'm happy to get her explaining more. But Brene Brown was a huge proponent. If you guys don't know who Brene Brown is, I highly recommend her books for anyone. If you're in business, I'm in the midst of finishing Dare to Lead. Fantastic book on leadership, leading in a shame culture world, and how to lead with vulnerability, which is something that I work very hard on to ensure that I'm always open with people, but without being toxically vulnerable, which is a very delicate balance. So that was that was huge. And what kind of, you want to explain some of what Brene helped you see?
So I think what happened a year ago, was I finally, for the first time in my life, took a look at my life and was very honest about where I was. It was much easier to pretend that things were okay, that I didn't have needs, that I wasn't depressed, that I didn't have some significant anxiety. It was just much easier to not deal with it. And so a year ago, I kind of hit the end of the road, and it was either go further into the spiral and become not a person anymore.
Yeah, become numb to it and just live life in bed.
But further and further numb and detached from the world. Or choose to deal with it head on. And so that's kind of what we did, diving into different kinds of therapies, different kinds of therapy, different therapists, different ways to attack this. Anyway, so it's been about a year ago, from about January to June, July was when the rubber really hit the road. It was a slow build.
Hard. God, it got hard.
But dealing head on with my depression, my anxiety, and the childhood trauma and sexual abuse that had happened to me when I was very young, and what that meant for my life now. Even more importantly than what had happened back then, how it had impacted my entire life, and what was it doing in my life now, and did I want to live with that, or did I want to start healing it?
And I think that was really the critical point for you and I was knowledgeably, like I knew I had no power, I had no control in any of those areas of our relationship or of your life. And it was something you had to come to grips with and you had to overcome. And the sexual abuse you didn't even know about until you went through EMDR therapy, because your body had protected you from it.
I was so young, my mind protected itself and buried all the memories. My body and my emotions remembered
Right.
everything.
Every detail.
But I didn't have conscious memory of it until recently.
So we're not telling this story to create a pity party.
No, not at all.
It's more of trying to say that there's an interesting concept that through this journey of healing, of trying to understand what had happened, why it created depression, why it created anxiety, why it created a lifestyle of self-deprecation and of not feeling like you're enough.
Yep.
There were some interesting moments, and one of those interesting moments was that we'd made the decision back in April, I think it was. You said, I want to learn to fly.
Okay, so it was, I believe it was in June. Because one of the things that we did as we were separately on this year of healing or whatever, which the healing never ends. So it was the first year of healing. It was definitely intense. But in June, we each made lists of things we wanted, things, our desires, our wants and our desires, our deep needs that were not currently being met, that we hadn't voiced, that we maybe hadn't even really allowed ourselves to consider.
And the concept was not just to write down your deep needs, because we can all write down deep needs, but I loved the way that your therapist put it. She said, write down what you would do if it couldn't negatively affect anyone else you love.
What would you do if it didn't negatively affect anyone in your life?
Right.
Or even out of your life.
Yeah.
If it had no negative impact on anyone, what would you do? And so we made these separate lists. And on my list was learn to fly.
And me being a fixer was immediately like, oh, you want to learn to fly? You're serious?
Hey, there's an open spot on Saturday.
Yeah.
And I think we both knew that the timing was still wrong.
Yeah.
And then the next open spot was in November.
Yep.
And so we signed me up for November and did a whole ton of work in between.
Ton of work.
June and November.
And we went into November, so here I am waiting, watching full knowledge, like my wife's going to go through flight training. And I've watched hundreds of grown men who are very self-assured, who are very confident, come through flight training and be humbled. Or be overcome by emotion. And here you and I have been being overcome by emotion for 8 months, 10 months, 11 months. It's like, oh God, so I'm nervous. I'm nervous about it. But I really committed to following the process. Like, I trust our company's process of training a lot, like a whole lot. Enough so that they handle all your training except that I talked you up on your first flight.
Yes.
And I pushed you once kiting. Like, that's literally all I did, because they had it under control. But it was really emotional for me because, I trust my team. I trust what they're doing, but I'm also sending the mother of my children up flying. And I know it's dangerous. I've been hurt, I'm like, I still get that a little bit every time, but only when people fly close to you.
You mean like your dad? Like
my dad. My dad, jeez. So anyway, let's fast forward to November. November 2nd, you walk into class. We do intros. You've never sat through an intro class before.
I never had, no.
Yeah.
It's my first time.
Walk through the training experience in more detail than we've shown so far, I guess.
So I had always kind of observed the training experience from the outside of the inside. I, married to you, and I see the class in bits and pieces, and I know a lot of the inner working cogs of how everything works together, but I really hadn't experienced. And so I really was excited to experience that first person. So intro class was great. Had an awesome classmates. I know a couple of them are out there right now. Love you guys. Come fly with me. It's great. The weather's great in Florida.
Pete Jankowski.
For those of you who are not in Florida still.
Pete Jankowski from our Lake Havasu guy. Most amazing, sweet human. I love him to death. He posted on the announcement of our thing saying, oh, I can't wait to see Nelle and Nelle's husband on the stream.
I've risen to Jacqueline's boyfriend status.
That's right.
Woo!
All right. So continue. Sorry, I
Anyway,
cut you off.
no, it's fine. So I mean, first day is fairly, very intro, fairly low key, low expectations. I had done a very minimal, a couple hours of kiting work with a couple of the instructors that had been kind enough to come out and just kind of get me started on some things.
I think we can address that too, because part of the reason why you did that was because you didn't have confidence that you could do it at all. And it was an opportunity to gain some confidence.
And I knew that it is becoming more and more common for students to have done some kiting already before they show up for class. And I didn't want to be behind. And especially, and I don't know if this is, I don't know, just especially like, as your wife, as like Eric's, I didn't want to show up and be like, well, it'll be fine. I don't have to, I wanted to be on like the top of my game and ready to go. I didn't want to be dragging anybody down with me as we went. So I did that, but I really didn't do a whole ton of it. And it at the place I still was emotionally, it didn't necessarily make me any more confident for the start of class. But that's, that is what it is.
Well,
so
I think a lot of it went back, and each of us carry this. We each carry a lack of self-worth. No matter who you are, if you're Derek freaking Trout, who's in here, and he's one of the most confident people you ever meet face to face, but I know him pretty well personally, and I know that there are issues and challenges in areas where he is challenged, and the same thing with me, the same thing with Craig Taylor and all these other people in the chat. Like, the reality is there's always areas in our life where we feel like we're not enough.
Yeah.
And I loved that you came to class with the desire not to bring your classmates down, because we do that. We have wingmen, and your wingman is relying on you, and you, I think, were a phenomenal wingman for your wingman. But I really enjoyed watching the process, but it was not easy. I think that you had one of the most challenging emotionally times learning to fly of anyone.
And I think that may be largely because I was very aware of it, and I was very aware of the specific things that were being triggered as I had emotional difficulty throughout class. I mean, we were just talking about this last night at different points in kite. I would come home and basically have a panic attack every night, overwhelmed from
and I'm with
just
the kids,
everything.
And I'm like, what do I do?
I felt overwhelmed and I felt stressed. I never wanted to quit. Never felt like the right decision, which was interesting. That I didn't want to bail, because I tend to be a little bit of a runner.
Well, and so, to be frank, there's a lot of other areas in your life and in our life that you've wanted to quit, because it seems like the safer solution. Either, and because you're a 2, and oftentimes it's because you feel like it'd be better for the people around you if you quit. And because I offered many times every day before she left, and when she got home, it's like, if you want to quit, I will not think less of you.
No, it was always very clear. And I think we were always very clear with each other that I was doing this for me. I wasn't doing this because I felt like I should, or the timing was right, and I wanted to learn how to do this and see if it was a fit for me.
Right.
So I think that was probably part of not quitting. But there were many points within kiting where I had different emotional things triggered. There was one day where I had the motor sim on my back, which is the cage without the motor on it. You practice kiting with that the feeling of the largeness of the cage. It's not the same weight and all that. I was kiting, and I came up and pulled a reverse. I was kiting in reverse, and I had this overwhelming feeling that I was physically trapped and could not get away, could not save myself, and no one could save me, and I lost it. Totally lost it.
Yeah.
Just that. All those feelings hit of being not safe, and you were there that day. I was really grateful that you were there.
I was glad too.
Sat with me and let me feel it for a little while and let it go. And
we've been very blessed to have fallen into some great mentors that have helped us develop tools to help each other. Because for 10 years, she'd get in that place, and I'd have no idea what the heck was going on, because we didn't have knowledge of the abuse. We didn't know. It just was like, what's happening with my spouse? So if anybody resonates with this and they want to go down the journey we've been on, I encourage you guys, check out Luke and Krista Gifford. Their masterheart.com is a great resource. It's been a huge blessing for us. So I was able to sit there and hold space and really try to help her through the process versus just sitting there watching going, what do I do with my hands?
Trying to fix it, which is your natural, you want to make things better for people.
But there's some things you can't fix until you go through. You just can't. So we got, I remember that panic attack, and it really was a full-blown hyperventilating panic attack because you felt the pressure of the net against your helmet and you felt like you were being held down, which triggers your inner child's traumas, which is totally, it's totally normal. Yeah. And so from there, you went and towed and did perfectly. What was your confidence level going into tows and after tows?
Going into tows, I was completely petrified and I had no idea why, and that was so frustrating. I had to stop. There were 2 or 3 of my classmates who went before me, and I was not nervous about towing for myself, but I could not watch them. Watching it, I thought I was going to vomit. I was so scared, and I was so mad at myself because I didn't know why I was scared. It was just such a weird emotional experience.
Well, and like we said earlier, every student at some level experience that. Like most people may not experience it at that level, but I was talking to some of the guys in today's class. They towed this morning, and they're like, I was really scared. And this is a big, strong guy. And he's like, I was really scared. And I was like, I don't blame you. You're doing something superhuman.
Yeah.
I got towed up tonight, and I won't lie. My heart goes, whew. I'm trusting that Ross is going to operate this tow machine perfectly. I'm trusting that I'm not going to hit some weird air. I'm trusting that everything's going to go perfectly. And mind you, I'm way outside the safety bubble we do for students because it's windier, and I'm going to do a really aggressive tow to get lots of altitude. But I get nervous. Yeah. But there's a differentiation when there's a trauma that makes you feel that pressure. And I think that's one of the things that has been such a learning experience for you and I is recognizing how much childhood trauma has affected both of us. So you went through tows, and truly, guys, her tows were perfect. You can see them on the YouTube video, like absolutely perfect. But I remember you finished towing.
It was in the morning.
I think you came home, or I came in and saw you, and you were freaking out about flying. What were your thoughts?
It was interesting. It was that morning, and they did some towing, and then they had some first flights following that. And my initial response to seeing some of my classmates fly first, and I love your instructors, and they're always very upfront with do not compare your experience to anyone else's. People have different capacities, different abilities, different experiences. It means someone else doing something before you means absolutely nothing about who you are.
Right.
And I know that, and I embrace it. But there still was that moment of, gosh, it's not me. And then I stopped and I thought, I'm actually okay with that. I don't want to fly right now. And I could be really excited for them. And I wasn't ready at that point. I think it was that night we came back.
Yeah, we came back.
We came back to finish up towing. There were a couple of students who still needed to tow, and then of course there were other students who were ready for first flights. And I was just kind of hanging out. I wasn't sure if they were going to want me to. They hadn't been super clear yet about if I was going to. I had 2 tows, and they've been fine, and I felt okay about it. But nobody had said, "You've passed the towing experience. Next up is which is."
And we'd plan on towing you again if you wanted to. And So one thing that should be stated is that this experience is not in any way, shape, or form abnormal. Yeah. We have trained a lot of people with a lot of traumatic issues and challenges. We just soloed a guy in Nelle this morning who had a traumatic brain injury. He's a resurgence candidate. Phenomenal story. It took him a long time to fly, but he crushed it. Yeah. We're used to it. And so as instructors, everyone works together and says, whatever they want, we're here for 14 days. We're going to serve what they want at their own pace. Yeah. And so Chris and I had already talked about it, and she's ready to fly. if she wants to. And I wasn't sure if you wanted me to talk you up, you wanted Chris to talk you up.
I didn't know either.
Yeah, it was like, we're here.
You and I had talked about it too, and had kind of left it to
totally up to you.
To whatever was we decided was the right fit when the time came.
In the moment, yeah. And like I really wanted to do it because I didn't.
Yeah.
I trusted Chris to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or AJ or Micah or whoever. Like I trusted them to do it. I knew they would keep you safe. But if you had a panic attack in the sky,
yeah,
which flash forward happened.
Yeah, that was happy fun.
not that flight.
Nope.
Then I knew ways to talk you down that they may not know. So I wanted to be present at least.
Yeah.
And so it was. We got out there, and what happened? I'll stop now. I'll be quiet.
You're good. We got out there, and they were setting up to fly some students for first flights, and they had some students that were towing who hadn't towed at all, and I wasn't sure if I was going to tow again, but I knew that I didn't want to cut in line. I wanted to make sure all the students had a chance to tow before I went on a second thing. Anyway, I think they were taking the last student up for a tow, and you came over, and I think Micah was there too, and you came over and you said, do you want to tow again? I thought about it and I thought, I think I'm okay. I don't feel like I need to tow before I go. If anybody feels like I do, I'll go. That's fine. I trust your judgment in this scenario, but I think I'm okay. And I could see you poker faced it. You instructor poker faced it very nicely, but I could see the shock behind your eyes. It was great.
For those men in the audience who are listening to this, and you guys know the areas that you trigger your wife. And you don't want to, especially when she's stepping into something that you love and that this is a big emotional thing. Like, dude, walking on eggshells is not even close. We're talking like,
sorry.
Like I was holding as many helium balloons as I could find at all the local stores to hold myself off the eggshells the whole way. Like, I was so cautious. I was so like, I don't, because I didn't want to be the cause. Like, Kevin Confly asked a question a moment ago asking about how you felt about the weight of the motor. And I remember during the simulator, or the leanbacks, how was that for you?
Leanbacks, I hated leanbacks. It felt very heavy, and the power of the motor scared me a lot. I felt like if I felt so out of control on the ground, with my feet on the ground, in my comfort zone on the ground, how could I possibly feel confident in the air with that kind of power behind me? It was scared. I was scared. It was scary. I was scared. There it is. But I think that was the day that I came to Chris, and you and Chris had talked ahead of time, and I knew that Chris knew a lot of my backstory and what we had been working through the last several months.
By the way, for those of you guys who don't know, Chris is Chris Garrison. He's one of my best friends.
He's amazing. We love Chris.
He's our training director for all of our schools, as well as now our operations manager. So he's one of the guys who throughout this past year I've been like, yo, bro, let me tell you all the crap in my life. I'm really glad we don't have a normal work environment where people don't talk about things because, oh my God.
But I came to him at one point. I think it was maybe before towing. I don't remember exactly when it was. Anyway, and I was just kind of sharing with him, like that this was really scary. I can't even remember why I started the conversation, but this was something that I wanted to say that he pointed out to me that, again, I was aware of, but I appreciated having it said to me very black and white, and it was a good perspective. What he said to me was, every person in this class is going through something.
Yep.
It may not all be as obvious or as visceral, or they may not be aware of it, and everyone else, they may be aware of it, and everyone else isn't as aware of it, but everyone in this process is working through some really big stuff in their life. It digs up all the hard places.
It does.
And puts them front and center.
Which is kind of annoying, but also really beautiful and powerful, because you're doing something you really want to do. Yeah. You're taking the time for yourself. Mm-hmm. And like for you, it's hard because you're a 2, and here you're taking 2 weeks away from your kids, from me. Like, you know that it's going to put people out, but you stuck with it.
Yeah. Anyway, and Chris's suggestion after that was that I do some more lean back stuff in motor sim if I wanted to. And so I did. I got with Micah that afternoon, and that helped with my confidence level to be able to do that in a slightly toned down environment. I didn't feel like somebody was waiting for me to get done so we could move. I don't like to inconvenience anyone by my existence.
All right, so let's talk about your first flight.
Yeah, so we were on the field, and I told you I didn't feel the need to tow again.
Which did truly shock me.
And you said, okay, well, do you want to fly?
And by the way, the backside of that question was, oh crap, maybe she's done. And like, she's worked so hard for this. Maybe she's not willing
you
to.
Didn't tell me that part. That's really cute.
No, like I was like, maybe she's not willing to tow because she's still scared of it, and maybe she's just ready to throw in the towel. And that would have been totally fine. Like I never would have pressured you, but like it was your experience to live. But I was like, I would have been so disappointed for you. Just like when we have students who come through training, they don't buy equipment, don't keep flying. It's like I feel that same like kick in the gut, like, buddy,
you're so close.
Well, you could have changed your whole life, like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So sorry, continue.
Yeah, no. So we set up for first flights, and we talked about it, and I had been nervous about. We had made the conscious decision for you really not to be involved in any of the training because we were working through enough other stuff without also adding student-teacher relationship to all the laundry list of other things. And it was a great decision, and I had complete faith in an amazing experience with the instructors on staff. And I wasn't sure what I would feel when we got to that point of the first flight. I really, really, really wanted it to be you, but I also didn't want that moment to bring up all the stuff that was already between. I didn't want there to be anything additional between. At that point, I needed it to be only a teacher-student relationship, and up until that moment, I wasn't sure if that would be possible. Just because of what we were working through. We've
been going through, and just to better explain that, I mean, we're going through 10 years of baggage, 10 years of unaddressed baggage of trying to understand how the new revelation of, hey, my wife was sexually abused. Mm-hmm. She didn't know it. It's not her fault.
Right.
But the way in which she lives is her responsibility.
Yeah.
And so going through the depression, through the anxiety, through the, just and that's totally.
And the responsibility on both sides of mistakes we've made and the things that we hadn't addressed.
100%.
The things that I hadn't addressed and the things that you hadn't addressed, the needs and anyway. Again, sorry.
We're getting deeper in that. But I think it was a really wise decision. I think anybody who's in a position where they're training their spouse on anything, you're always going to trigger the crap out of them. That's just normal. You know, it's totally normal.
Anyway, but we got down to that moment, and I knew that it needed to be you, and I was ready.
So honored.
Yeah.
And you got in the air beautifully. As soon as you had a power, it was like boop, gone.
Yeah, and it was taxi practice, and I was totally fine for it to be taxi practice if that's what it was, and it was the first flight, and I cried the whole time. Happy crying. It was happy crying.
It was happy tears. You landed.
Yeah.
And we had lots of happy tears, both of us. I think
big moment.
One of the things I think is interesting is a lot of people think that the journey's over then. No. A lot of people think that, okay, you did it.
Yeah. And there was that overwhelming feeling of, I can't believe that I just actually, I did it. I just actually did it. And it was hard, but it wasn't insane.
Right.
So
I remember your third flight. Oh, Lord.
Was it my third flight?
It was your third flight.
Oh.
So we brought the kids because we have children, and even though we have lots of family around.
It was past that. It was like 10th flight or something.
Third flight.
What were we thinking?
I don't know.
Because I had 2 flights that first night.
Yes, it was the next time. So we brought the kids. We're like, okay. So we have a school building that's, can be locked, and we'll give the kids a radio so they can radio us. Mm-hmm. And we'll let them watch TV, and which our kids basically don't watch any TV, like ever. Maybe an hour a week.
Yeah.
And so it's like a huge deal for them. Like, yeah, we get to watch TV. So we're going to set the TV up for them. It's going to be great. They'll be safe. We'll have, we're back and forth enough
They're
between.
Happy. They had snacks.
Yeah, everything's fantastic. And so I have a radio that has 2 frequencies on it. One to talk to the kids, one to talk to Nelle. She gets in the air. It's pretty darn windy. It was blowing like 6-7 miles an hour. And because you're 108 pounds, and you're flying a 21-meter wing, you're not going forward very quickly. So I switch over after she gets in the air and check on the kids. August, how are things? Everything's great. Awesome. I thought I switched back to the right frequency, and I hadn't. So I'm telling Nelle, like, hey, make a left turn. Everything's great. And it's maybe 45 seconds until I realized that I was talking to the wrong frequency. And when I get back to Nelle, where were you?
Full on panic. I couldn't hear you. I was alone. In my mind, where I had gone was I was alone. I was unsafe. I was terrified.
Yeah.
And it felt like all of the training had just leaked out my ear.
Even though, and I have to point this out, the training may have felt like it leaked out of your ear. She did. So we train for loss of comms, right? We train for it. It's something we practice before you ever fly.
I had been dreading that more than an engine out.
But you did everything exactly according to the training. Like you made all the correct turns. You did everything as if you were in the simulator going through it. Like it was perfect. But your emotional response was massive.
Yeah, it really scared me.
I thought you were going to kill me when you came back in.
I considered it.
Because I was immediately like, I'm really sorry. It was my fault. Like I I screwed up. I'm really sorry.
Because I did all that. I checked to make sure it was connected here. Is the volume up? Am I on the right channel? Is it connected here? Is the volume all the way up? I checked everything, stem to stern, and everything was right.
So she did everything right. I lost comms because I was trying to do two things at once.
Things happen.
She brings it in for a beautiful landing.
Hyperventilating.
We got through that. Got the motor off her back. Got through that. She's looking at me. The winds have picked up now. I'm going, okay, she's definitely done flying now. She's never going to fly again. Like I just totally royally effed this up. Like this is so bad. I have destroyed my wife's soul. I felt really bad.
There's a sledgehammer just
And then she turns to me after about 3 minutes. And what'd you say?
I have to go again right now, don't I?
No, you said, I have to go again right now or I'm never doing it again.
I love that our memories of things are I just find it fascinating. I'm not disputing. I just think that it's so interesting.
Well, that's how I remember it.
But the sentiment was the same, was that I knew that I had to get up and go right then or I would probably never go ever again.
Yeah.
And so I did.
You did, and I had to take off.
It was not fun.
And go back around and land really quickly, and we had good
comms. Because it was windy.
At that point, I was going 8, 9.
Yeah, it was windy, but
so
I'm glad that I did.
I'm glad you did too.
Thanks.
And then now with 42 flights, I think around 20, 25, I started asking her. I said, so do you like it? She's like, not sure if I like it yet. 30 some odd flights, I asked again. I said, do you like it? She's like, I think I might like it. I'm not sure.
I'm not terrified every time anymore.
And then around 38 flights, she took her first completely solo flight with no radio even on board and crushed it. And then last night, you took 2 more beautiful flights and David Nickerson cut you off. David, I'm putting you on blast.
I don't think he knew.
I'm sure he didn't know.
Because I was coming in. The wind had shifted and I wasn't coming anyway.
And you're on a 1 mile final, whereas most of us do a 15-yard final.
Better safe than sorry.
Oh, I'm not. It's exactly what I want you to be doing. If you want to go 2 miles, let's do 2 miles. So
you got to cross the highway to do that.
So the whole process, watching your trauma expose itself, watching your panic attacks, watching your struggles, what do you feel like flying has shifted in you? Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, it's okay. I think it has highlighted a resilience that I had never acknowledged. There was part of me that was surprised that I didn't want to give up at any point, and then part of me that thought, no, this is not giving up is me. I am resilient. I am committed.
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely shifted that. It's shifted my perspective on my capabilities, for sure.
What I've seen, not just capabilities and resilience, but I've seen a tremendous amount of both confidence and a strength of knowing what you want that I've never seen in you. Seeing you know, like today, this morning as I'm leaving the house to come to the office, I was like, so you're going to come fly tonight, right? You're like, oh yeah, planning on it. And it's just like, normally you have this internal fight for so many years of should I, could I, who does it put out? Is it worth it? What's the cost? Like, it was just like, absolutely, I'll be there to fly tonight.
Checks and balances that were never in my favor.
And checks and balances that weren't necessary.
Right. Checks and balances
felt like your responsibility, even though they weren't.
The checks and balances that I invented to make things not in my favor.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
100%. So we bring up all of this because, A, I think that Nelle's story can help heal people, as she's been healing herself and working so hard to accept the fact that some bad shit happened to you, pardon my French, to accept that it doesn't have to define you anymore. It doesn't have to define your decisions. We wanted to share this story. Nelle and I talked about it a lot. We've talked about it for months, really, and it just wasn't the right time.
We're all about timing.
And the back end of it is that I think there's a hole in our industry. Excuse me. By the way, I clear my throat when I get anxious. So for people who don't know that, when I clear my throat, it's because when I have anxiety, that's what I do. So I have a lot of anxiety about this show tonight because my wife's bearing her soul and I'm bearing mine. And then I'm anxious about my next idea because there could be a lot of things that go wrong with it. We want to do a class in which Nelle will be as involved as she can be. It's going to be October 6th week, those 2 weeks. We're going to do a class of all women. We're going to bring our female instructors here. We have 2 female instructors. We'll have Kate helping as well, I'm sure. Allie helping as well, I'm sure. And we're going to do this for charity. A portion of all the proceeds are going to go to a child abuse foundation. I'm not sure which one yet. I've been researching, trying to figure out which ones don't take too much of a cut for marketing expenses. Because like the Aviator Foundation takes nothing. As the chairman, I make nothing. Nothing is spent on anything except for actually helping people. And that's what we want to do. So we're going to try to find the best charity. If anyone has recommendations on what charity that focuses on child sexual trauma, child sexual abuse, either that or helping get kids out of it, whether they're getting out of it or they're being put in a position where they can find therapy and stuff sooner. That's what we want to do. We want to bless people as much as possible. So there are 8 slots available in that class. Again, proceeds are going to go to charity. I'll cover our costs and then we'll pay the rest to charity. So, or at least a portion, because I don't want to have to go through the math to figure out exactly what the costs are for this, because that means I have to figure out exactly what every minute of runtime on an Adam 80 costs. It's just not worth it. But we're gonna do a big donation to a charity, and we'll keep you guys up to date with that. We'll make sure that we're very, very open with our numbers and everything else, because to me it's very, very important. I was put on this earth to change people's lives and to help inspire them to live beyond their fears. Like that's why I'm here. Mm-hmm. I'm not the best person at it. I've been so honored to see you face your fears and to see you grow through them over the last 6 months, last year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing. So yeah, if you guys want to, now we're both gonna cry.
On that note.
Yeah. Sorry for the loud laugh. Yeah. So somebody says Aviator needs to be a safe space. We are, guys. Aviator is a safe space for each of our students that come through. We are so thankful to have an incredible team of empathetic people who love to serve. That is our number one thing that you have to be before you work here, is someone who wants to bless people. So we're going to do a female class. We'll do one in October, and if there's enough demand, we'll add another one, because I think that it can, especially if you've gone through a trauma, whether it's losing someone or being sexually abused, especially if you are just becoming aware of it. I have seen my wife.
Or just addressing it.
Yeah, I've seen my wife change everything about the way that she loves our kids since this. Everything about the way she loves me. And I cannot tell you how thankful. So if we can help change someone you know's life, even if they don't know what paramotors are yet, Andre Gramillion, Ben Smith, Kevin can fly, Derek Trout, if you know someone who's gone through some major crap, show them a paramotor video, show them this podcast, and get them in a position where they want to come learn to fly. We still haven't made it, so I can't give away 8 class slots yet, but someday maybe we'll do that. I'd like to do at least one class a year like this. I'd love to do more. We have such a need for more lady pilots that the Fly Products Eclipse makes it achievable, especially with the Spider or Jomo. We're put in a position where we're able to get Nelle, who's 108 pounds, and she's very strong. She's stronger than me for her weight. But she's able to do this, and so can pretty much everyone else.
Yep.
So it's out there. It's official. October. Please come. Jim Sierra 120 recommends Wellspring International by RZIM Ministries, organization I might want to look into. If you have recommendations on organizations we should look into, please email them to me, Eric, ERIC, at aviatorppg.com. I would certainly welcome recommendations. Again, I just don't want to put ourselves in a position where we're donating to some 501c3 that are not taking care of people. And Yodansky says, give me half price. I got 2 for you. Brother, I love it, but the whole point of this is to be able to raise money for charity. It's not to I mean, like, we just gave away 2 class spots in our last class because we want to do good, and we're going to continue to do that when we have availability. But it's not about helping the individual. It's about looking at a bigger purpose and what we can do. Because if we're not paying it forward, if we're not looking at that's part of why Nelle wanted to come on the show. If she wanted to be able to share her story, to be able to offer other people hope, I guess, right?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. So, wow. Hang on.
What's that? Oh. Hi.
Proud of you.
Love you.
Sorry, I don't like.
Kate's
I'm a physical touch person. I like being close to people that I love.
I hold your hand.
Hi, girl. What's your name is? All right.
Can I finish my chocolate now?
You can eat all your chocolate you want.
Yes.
All right. So there were lots of questions. Vertical says we can donate to the girls. If you guys want to donate to the women coming through this, I'm not sure the legality of this yet. So if I have to refund you, please just accept it. We are going to have, hopefully this week we'll have the Aviator Foundation website up. And if you earmark it, want to help the girls, I'd be happy to, donate to someone who needs it. I don't know.
Yeah, there's some logistics.
The legalities are tough because I don't want to do something that's illegal while trying to do something good. I actually had a realization the other day that one of my biggest fears right now is doing the right thing and having it misinterpreted, or doing what I think is the right thing and having it not be the right thing. I was I'm losing sleep over this. There's been a lot of issues in the last few weeks where I thought I was doing the right thing and it's misinterpreted, and I'm have to figure out what the heck to do the whole. So yeah. That's one of my personal issues. All right. Are there any questions? DP says, I'm a mortician, I know, and have a freaky schedule. Is it possible to train over 10 days? So, DP, here's how it works. We have 14-day schedule, so our instructors are here for 14 days. You are welcome to stay for as long as you like. We recommend 5 to 8 days, bare minimum, to be able to have any experience in the air. You generally fly on day 4 to 5. So the longer you can stay, the better, but we don't trap you in a room. There was a discussion with a gentleman who had signed up for class, and he posted on Facebook, and he was like, I'm so pissed off. It's okay. Aviators changed their schedule, so instead of 10 to 15 days, you've got to stay for 14. I commented, sir, we're not kidnapping you. You're welcome to leave anytime you'd like. And then 120 or to 160 other people commented and said, dude, you don't get it. You don't have to stay 14 days. The training is complete except for the flying portion by day 8. You can leave whenever you want to. And he just didn't get it. And so I sent him a message privately on Facebook, and I said, hey, I'm really sorry for the miscommunication, but you're welcome to stay for as long as you like. And he didn't read my message. And he kept going for like 120 comments, and he's bashing us. He's really pissed off, and he's like, you have to stay for 14 days, and that's bullshit. And I'm like, sir, you don't have to stay. I'm not kidnapping you. I don't have candy or a van. Like, this is not something that you have, like, you are welcome to remain and get as much experience as you would like for 14 days so that you can have the best weather windows. We're paying our staff for 14 days for every class to make sure you have the best possible experience. But if your schedule only allows for 10, okay. And he didn't get it. And, like, he was pissed. And so it's like 11 o'clock at night, and I'm like, I don't know if this guy's drunk. I don't know. I don't understand how much more logic I can feed him. And finally, after messaging him privately, him not responding or reading it, I just sent a message to my assistant, and I was like, hey, would you please refund this gentleman's deposits? And then he blows up. Now he's pissed. He's like, you're so disrespectful. He left us a negative review, our first negative review on Google. We get this terrible review from this guy about how my father should be ashamed of me. And
I'm sorry.
And I'm like, I'm really sorry. Like, I've tried to express to you, and I feel genuinely bad for the guy because he didn't get it. And maybe I was explaining, I would take full responsibility if I explained incorrectly. But I felt like I was being very clear, and the other 15 people who were leaving the same comments explaining what I was explaining seemed to think I was being very clear also. So to DP, you don't have to stay for 15 or 14 days. You are more than welcome to stay for as long as it fits your schedule, but you have up to 14 days, and it has to be congruent, and that's it. All right, sorry.
14 days would be ideal. Maximize the experience. Maximize what the system is set up for. But it is not required.
Yeah, and it's mainly for weather. And your health. So, like, a lot of people, when they get into this, they aren't in the best shape. You're using muscles you're not used to using. You're going to pull your groin potentially. You're going to have a knee issue. You're going to have back issues. We're going to be like, hey, Epsom salt baths and ibuprofen. Yep. Like, it's hard work. It's a lot harder than people think it is. So for those of you guys who have had experience with our company and you enjoyed your experience, or even if you didn't, please leave us a comment or a review on Google and Facebook so that we can maybe hide and bury this. Actually, I don't care if it's out there. I wrote him a response, and he hasn't responded to that, and he still hasn't read my Facebook messages. Can we leave him a review? Like a month away, he still hasn't read my Facebook messages. I'm like, well, okay.
Yeah.
So,
he didn't
mention the classes again.
Okay, Kate told me to mention classes. We have 2 class slots, February 29th. So 2 class slots, February 29th, available here in Lake Wales, I believe. And then we have 3 class slots in March, and I believe 4 or 5 in April. So for the first time in almost 5 years, first time in 4 years, we have space available immediately. You know, like more than one like cancellation really quick here or there. We had 2 class slots in the last one, which is fantastic because we got a resurgence candidate in. But guys, if you want to join us for those classes and you're interested in being a part of the Aviator family, if you're a prior Aviator family member, someone who's been through class with us, and you have a friend who'd like to do this, we will give them a give you a $200 referral fee in our Aviator dollars, so you can spend them with us, and give them $100 toward their new T-shirts and things like that they're going to need. So, you guys feel free to let us know and fill it up quickly, because otherwise I'm going to have to do something else with that space. So, Para Addict James Stump says best show ever. Jim CR120 says for those wanting to stay longer than 14 days, you either get hired or a restraining order. Ben Smith, have a great night, my friend. Brian Waller, any trike classes available? Currently, no. We are working on trike class information. Expect more data from us very soon. It's actually part of the meeting we're having tomorrow with all the managers. Let's see here. Anybody who looking for a spot, you can go to aviatorparamotor.com/training or email us info@aviatorppg.com. Brian Paramotor, hey Eric, what's the best way to get in touch with a local small airport manager to get permission to fly there? Call and schedule an in-person meeting, email, etc. Ryan, my encouragement is generally it's tough. If you're local and it's where you're going to live, be flying all the time, just go there. They're there 90% of the time. If they're not there, you can call and find out when they'll be available. Go and express what you're doing. I had a conversation today with a past student of ours who just found out that the beaches he's been flying off of have been outlawed for all motorized vehicles. And he's very stressed about it. And I said, listen, they have no obligation whatsoever to actually allow you to fly there. It's not an airport. There's no grant assurances or anything else like that. So the best thing you can do is go to the city county commission meetings, donate to county commissioners' election funds, donate to their primary causes, be friendly, go do beach cleanups with all the paramotor pilots. Like, make a big deal out of it. Get the news involved. Like, do something that has a bigger focus. Don't just make it about you flying your annoying butt fan around, because all they're going to do is go, you're annoying. If you make it about you being a genuinely caring person, they'll listen. Jeff and Shell Stang, by the way, you guys are awesome. Thanks for the comments. Good to see you. William says, is there anyone that posts the class schedules for both locations? I'd like to stop by, but I never know what's going on. I can work on that. We need to do a new Google Calendar. We can do that on the website. We used to have one. Right now, with the exception of next week, that's Denellen has free starting Friday. Lake Wales is full every week until, I want to say, the 20th of April, something like that, or 15th of April. So plenty of stuff to do. Let's see. Hey, Harley, great to have you. Blaze, thank you, my friend Jason. We won't host SIV courses here right now. I would encourage you to reach out to AJ. He just signed up for one in Utah. I would love to have you to join him, I'm sure. Let's see. That's in April. Para Addict, which James Stump says. Seriously, the openness. Oh, I lost it. Appreciate it. No, it's all right. It's all right. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's just James Stump. We don't need him. I want to point out that David Nickerson, who cut you off 7 times in flight yesterday, is in the room.
Just the once.
She was so mad when she landed.
I was not. It's fine. No, I had. It was a whole thing. It really was not about you.
Was it on launch?
No, I was coming in for landing. It may not have even been
It was
him.
him.
Okay, Eric has been blaming you for like the last day. So
I already shouted you out on the stream as being the guy who totally dicked up my wife's beautiful flight yesterday.
I had already run around once because there was a glider coming, and I just I was all a tither.
I'm so sorry.
No,
That's too
you're fine.
funny. Jim's here 120 asked about the electric paramotor. Ironically enough, I had a meeting with one of our current students to work through some of the engineering challenges we have with battery cooling today. So we may actually have some changes coming there because everything else is ready. We just need throttle and cooling, and then we're ready to go. Let's see. JP Chulo wants to know, when is your Paradigm debut going to be?
I will be an enthusiastic spectator for the foreseeable future.
I think that my favorite is my dad. He wants to have the para-nickel challenge. I think it's doable. It's totally doable. Guys, any other questions?
Hi, Hannah.
Hi,
I'm wearing
Hannah.
Hannah's shirt.
I'm wearing Hannah's shirt too.
Woot woot.
Hannah designed both these shirts. If you guys haven't seen the new shirts, the new merch, we're going to be dropping some limited releases of more new merch very soon, but these are available right now on the website. So shop.aviatorppg.com. Let's see. Anybody else? Oh, Jason Gett wants to see David Nickerson. Where's David?
Oh, on the spot.
Yeah, people
on the
want to see what he
spot.
looks like. So Dave is one of our favorite students of all time, at least top 700 or so. And here, pop in here.
Come in,
pop
come
in
in,
here.
come
Come say hi.
I'm not going to sit on his lap.
You can sit on
I might sit in the other chair on your lap.
This
Thanks
is
for doing this.
David. David's the man, and if you guys are looking for people to fly with at in the Boston area, Boston or Maine, or if you're looking to go river raft the Grand Canyon, he has an empty seat available next month. So reach out to David Nickerson on Facebook.
Did you get word we got 6 new aviators?
They all flew?
We got 6.
We got 6 new aviators tonight, guys.
Amazing.
While we were doing the podcast.
Woo!
And we got 5 new this morning in Denellen. That's 11 in a day. That's not bad.
That's pretty awesome.
That's so awesome. So awesome.
Very
All
cool.
right. HJ Aviation, will you guys be at AirVenture? Yes, we will be at AirVenture, although we have not been asked to fly. So if you guys would like to see us fly at AirVenture, please send them a letter. They're pretty old school. Sending them a letter is probably the best way, or send them an email. Do whatever you can to try to encourage them that you want to see Paradigm fly. We'd love to fly. We're planning on going. We're exhibiting. This is the first year we've not been asked to fly, so we're a little confused, and we understand if they're going a different direction, but we really would love to do it if we're going to be there anyway. And the plan is to have the Aviator Fox there as well, so we'll have the Kit Fox ready to rock and roll. And Nick Griffith, for their address, eaa.org, eaa.org. You can find out more information. To everybody else, guys, thank you all so very much for watching. Truly appreciate you, and we will look forward to more. Nelle, thanks for being on.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
It was kind of fun.
It was fun.
It was not as hard as I thought, and also
Well,
harder.
I don't know how to respond to that.
Well, like I wasn't sure if we would be stilted, or like I would talk way too much, or you would talk way too little. I don't know. I think it worked out.
Ye of little faith.
Okay, we have another question. Craig Taylor, what if anything does Nelle regret about waiting to learn powered paragliding, and what are her next goals and progression?
Interesting question. My only regret in waiting was that it largely was because I did not put it out there that it was something that I wanted to do, something that was important. I didn't push for it. It was very, I backburnered myself. Big time. That's probably
You used to do
my
that.
only regret. But I'm not even sure that it's a regret because I think the timing was right.
I agree.
So I think maybe I just regret that, maybe that I didn't stand up for myself more so. Even if the timing had worked out exactly the same, if I had put myself out there a little more.
Yeah.
Maybe that.
I'm proud that you did it.
Anyway, as far as progression, just getting more comfortable on my own, flying on my own. So now I kind of feel like maybe I could go a little bit further now that I'm not scared about landing by myself. Because that was my big thing. I didn't want to land without somebody in my ear.
Yeah, we went on a cross country, and by the way, Ozone, if you're watching, please make us a Spider 20 or 18, because I'm on a free ride 16, and I'm trimmed all the way, and she's trimmed all the way out on the Spider 22, flying her Eclipse, and I'm going so fast, but we did a cross country all the way up to my parents' house, and flew over the kids and waved to them, and then flew back, and I think that she was like shaking with the cold by the time we got back. It was cool.
It was pretty chilly. This was a month or two ago.
Yeah, it was pretty chilly. So she did it, but
I did.
she wasn't comfortable with it. Now she'd be much more comfortable, I think.
Yeah.
So for those ladies that are looking for lightweight equipment, definitely, I mean, what are your thoughts on Eclipse versus Maverick for ladies?
Well, I've only flown the Maverick once, so I don't know that I
It's because you refuse to ever fly it again.
Well, it was just such a different experience, and it was the only time that I've ever flown different equipment. So it was definitely a little bit of a learning curve there for me. I won't say I would never do it again, but I'm definitely really enjoying the Eclipse. Very lightweight.
They're both awesome.
Plenty of power for me.
Like, I prefer the Maverick, so it's
So,
just funny. Everybody's different.
Yep.
Everyone's different.
Preference.
The Chad says, come up to Western Canada and fly. Chad, where are you in Western Canada? I would encourage you to reach out to Jason Parker, who is in here. He just said, Nelle, thanks for the huge sacrifice of staying with Eric, even though you know you can do better. We're all thankful for you selflessly taking one for all of our benefit. Oh, my gosh. Thank you very much for that, Jason. I haven't had enough of your whiskey yet to forgive you, but I'll work on it. Christine says, can it take a butt drag, the Eclipse?
Haven't done much of a butt drag yet.
You've done a
Are you
couple little butt landings.
remembering something that I'm
Couple
forgetting?
little butt landings.
Yeah, little ones. Not like
Yeah.
terrifying. Held up fine.
It did.
I did. Yeah, there was a little bit of concrete involved. Not concrete, but like
Asphalt.
yeah, there was some asphalt involved on one of them.
Question from Ryan Parameter. I hear the brake lines come long from the Spider and Roadster. Would you recommend tying them shorter before flying? It's not necessary, but certainly something you can do. Barry Schrader, hello. Good to see you, sir. Vertical Lines, any pilots in New York City? Vertical, reach out to Ernie DeVletter. Ernie is in the chat right now, and Vertical is Mark Hughes. Mark is a fantastic human. Ernie is as well. Ernie's South African, makes the best biltong outside of mine anywhere in the world. If you guys don't know what biltong is, it is the most delicious meat snack, and I have eaten 6 pounds of it in the last 3 weeks.
Oh, sad news. I didn't get
No!
thing today. I'll run by the store on the way home.
I need more meat. Derek says, so no broken props now.
Why you gotta jinx me, man? No, not yet.
Knock on wood. All right. Any other questions we can answer for you guys? We would love to help any way we possibly can, guys. We are here to serve. This has been an hour and a half long show, plus our pre-show, which Kate crushed. Let's see. Thoughts on single surface gliders for PPG? I've talked about this in the past, Greg, but I've flown them. I flew the first one that I ever saw that actually happened was it was called a UFO. I can't remember which manufacturer. I flew it in the 16 meter and maybe really want their 24 to use as a tandem because I had lots of. It has very poor flare, but it's so easy to launch. It's just absolutely ridiculous. So totally interesting. Not something I would consider a standard wing that I would use often. It's not bad, but it's not good. The efficiency's poor. Yeah, I don't know. Not my thing. I'm going to pick up the new Ozone single surface hike and fly glider to take with us on our trip. In fact, I think I have one on order, or it did. I got to talk to Emmy and find out what's going on with that. Sandy and Dave asked about the Peachtree Air Show. To find out more information about Paradigm, realistically, the biggest challenge with Paradigm right now is we can't afford to do shows, even when we charge for them, because it costs more than we can charge and be reasonable. So we need a sponsor. If someone wants to see us perform at a show local to them, help us find a sponsor, even if it's a local sponsor for one show that can help cover the cost.
Yep.
All right, question for you, Danielle.
Yes.
When will you let your kids fly?
When they're ready.
Yes.
Yep. August might be real old. He's very cautious.
He's very cautious, but I think because of his caution, August, I would let August free fly now.
Yeah.
I would let him road soar.
I don't think that we have an across the board age in mind for our kids, but when they really start to show an interest, we can start doing baby steps, kiting, free flight, stuff like that.
Yeah, so like August is, he got a BB gun and a pocket knife for Christmas. Arthur's 6 years old, 2 years younger than his brother, not even 2 years younger. And I bought pocket knife for him, and we just weren't comfortable giving it to him. It's the same idea. You're giving a child an opportunity to injure themselves, and they must have those opportunities in order to grow.
Right.
But like we run the BB gun range like you're going to a proper shooting range, hot range, cold range, safety's on, muzzles in the right direction, everything. It's very serious.
Yeah.
And learning to fly needs to be the same way. It's not something you do in your backyard and try to figure it out. It's something you do correctly.
Yep.
So, more questions. Let's see. NGK, talking about spark plugs. They're saying they're not suitable for aviation. That is correct. The NGK spark plugs are not suitable for aviation according to NGK's lawyers. However, I have been using NGK spark plugs in my aircraft, ultralight aircraft, experimental aircraft, paramotors, and everything else in between for 21 years. And no guys have been using them a lot longer than that. So,
somebody wanted to know something that I like to do that you don't. What's that?
oh, good Lord. I could make this awkward and make something up. No, she is, and she will dispute me on this, but my wife is a concert pianist and organist.
Oh my gosh.
Pipe organ.
It's not
And yes, I realize that's a euphemism. She plays.
Anything's a euphemism if you try hard enough.
That is true. Ask Ricky from our class in Denton Island. She is an incredible artist when it comes to music, and she has a love affair, which I really enjoy. I'm just terrible at. She has a love affair with plants, which. All right, so like if I like cars, right? I like cars. I like airplanes. I can tell people like, hey, I love my RV6 with the O320. I wish it had an O360. I wish it had a constant speed prop. I really would value having an autopilot with a really good glide slope, and I really would like to have a better IFR panel, maybe a Garmin G5. She could talk like that about plants and their Latin names. And she gets all excited about these flash sales that you have to like register for, and then you buy a plant that's like as big as this cork right here.
It's in your office right now. I brought you one.
You brought me. Okay, so she buys this for the same cost as this bottle of Maker's Mark, and I am a great encourager of this because I think that anything she's passionate about, I am an encourager of. Like, especially for so many years of not being passionate about things and putting her own needs to the side. But I have so little interest in plants. I can appreciate that. I learned what variegation is recently,
Look at you.
and it means that the plant destroys itself, and it's supposed to be a cool thing. I still don't understand it, but I mean, like it grows holes. Like,
Oh, that's fenestration.
See,
There's urgency in Catherine's eyes. Kate.
what do you
Kat,
mean, Kate?
Other person.
Give away coffee mugs? Why coffee mugs or a bottle? What do you guys want us to give away tonight? Give me an idea of what you want to give away. And Derek Trout, if you say One Wheel XR, you are banned for life. I did just order 10 more One Wheel XRs, so if you want one, and I just placed a huge order from our new distributor, Craft and Rides. We sell all of Craft and Rides accessories, and we are happy to supply your needs because I am so addicted to my One Wheel, and so is Nelle, I think. I
want to take it home
Yeah.
to take the garbage to the street.
Here, scroll up a little bit.
I don't have
Oh, shoot. I have a feeling that you can look on that. Derek said One Wheel. I'm pretty sure he said, sorry, Eric. I'm pretty sure he said One Wheel. I'm waiting.
Wait for it.
I'm waiting. Oh, he didn't say it. Dang it. All right, here's a great plan. If you guys will send EA a letter. If you send EA a letter, I'm going to give away a blue Richardson hat with a leather patch Paradigm logo. This is a $25 hat. I will give you that hat, one of you, who leave a comment on this video after it's gone live saying that you sent EA a letter. It can be an email, it can be a letter. It does not work on Facebook because only one person sees those, and she's already a huge fan of ours, and I love her to death. Sarah Nisler, hi. But it needs to go to their comments page on their website. So, perfect. What is Nell's favorite perennial and annual?
I gotta say, I don't love annuals because they die every year. Perennials come back year after year.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. Just I saw this glazed look in his eyes.
I was like,
I'm really more.
I thought
about,
she was going to say that annuals are more boring. And I was like,
No, personally, I am into houseplants right now, which are mainly perennials. So currently, I'm really loving the family of philodendrons. There's some really interesting stuff happening there. That's what I just got. I got the philodendron Birkin, and they're tiny and they're cute, and they don't have any variegation showing yet. And I'm so excited to see it when it
do
comes.
you see how excited she is? I love it. I love it. Makes my heart
I
happy.
put a plant in his office a couple months ago, and he told me he likes it. So
It is
there's
pretty.
more coming.
It's very pretty. So, what do we have to do? What to do with EAA to win the Paradigm hat? Jason could ask. Go to EAA.org, send a contact form message. They may have a suggestions form saying that you really wish that Paradigm Aerobatics was flying at the show this year. And if you guys do that, leave a comment on this video. Once the video goes live, not in the chat, but in the comment section that you've done so, and we will pick. So that's at Sun and Fun, at Oshkosh. We are flying at Sun and Fun Wednesday and Saturday evenings, so feel free to join us. We'll be there. Looking forward to it. Vegetable gardening, she does some of that as well.
Very, very little bit of dabbling. I don't know where you are, Jim. In Florida, we have it's largely year-round gardening because of the weather. I don't have a ton of luck with vegetable gardening. I can grow jalapenos real well.
They get great margaritas.
They do, with a little bit of pineapple.
Or strawberry.
Or strawberry. Blackberry's good too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But we do okay with peppers. I'm not great at vegetable gardening or any kind of food gardening, really.
All right. Guys, we have so many wonderful people in here. Thank you all. I just love the fact that we haven't lost people watching, despite the fact that we've gone on every kind of tangent you can
We're
imagine.
just shooting the breeze now.
It's true.
We're
it's
talking
true.
about plants. I put somebody to sleep talking about plants.
No, he
so
was talking
that's
about me.
why they're still
He was
here
talking about me.
because we put him to sleep talking about plants.
Awesome. We're going to give away one more thing tonight, guys. If you've enjoyed the show, please take a moment to share this on your Facebook page. Leave a like, leave a comment on the actual video itself once that goes live. You can just look to the left of where the chat is right now, and you can leave a comment instead of that on YouTube. Once you've shared it, let us know that you've shared it, and I'm going to pick somebody to give Kate away to.
Ryan Paramotor.
Kate says...
Wrapped me up.
Kate says I have to make sure it's Ryan Paramotor.
That's not awkward at all.
John DeJohn needs a hoodie. John, we will work on getting you a non-American hoodie. I'll have to get some art to get you a Canadian flag on the back of the hoodie. Let's see. Has anybody shared it yet?
Nick Griffith, Paradigm, front seat. He got it.
Yep, Nick Griffith, front stage, Oshkosh. Got it. Yes, sir. he says you have his number from his motor order. Hey, girl.
Got you, man.
Hey, girl. Mark Beisner, I believe the throttle should be in your non-dominant hand so that you can use your dominant hand for important things like throwing a reserve, getting out of your harness, or taking selfies.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Ernie says, can't wait to see what you come up with next week after this. Next week, it's not going to be good. I'm scared. Jeez.
Tell him to go follow me on YouTube.
No, I'm not telling you to go follow you on YouTube until you make a video.
Guys, go subscribe on YouTube. I just created my channel. Okay, that's it. Over and out.
I hope you couldn't hear her because she hasn't made a video yet, so it doesn't count. But you guys should definitely go follow Kate Bowen. She's in the chat right now. Go check her out. All right, let's see. Nell, you want to pick one? Who won tonight?
I don't know. How am I supposed to pick?
I don't know.
I can't, like...
All right, Dave, can you pick?
It's Jason Parker.
Jason Parker won.
Yay,
Dave
Jason.
picked. I haven't figured out what
Well,
Jason
what's
won
it-
yet.
I was gonna
Jason,
say,
what do you
what
do you
does he
want to
win?
win? What do you want to win that seems like
Oh,
a
that's a
reasonable thing for
loaded
us to give
question.
away? If you're not reasonable enough, I'm going to pull a Mr. Beast. If you're not reasonable enough, you don't win anything at all.
Oh. We have 1,000 messages.
1,000 comments on this video. Pretty good, guys.
Awesome.
So Jason Parker, you won. What are you gonna take? What's it gonna be? It's like getting a credit card with a limit on it. You can't overspend the limit, or you don't get anything at all.
We just watched that video.
I'm just waiting. I know we did. Yeah, Tucker and Jacqueline are at Parajet right now. I was actually talking to Tom day before yesterday, preparing for the trip. I'm excited for him. Colin Taylor said keychain. We're actually working on a new keychain, guys.
Oh, Jason
I'm gonna
says
have-
anything is fine.
Jason says anything's fine. Jason, you have won Aviator Paramotor. I'm just kidding.
I like food. Thank you.
Nell's face. Jason's like, I don't want that many problems. No, Jason, we'll get you a T-shirt, my friend. Send us your size. You can send that to Catherine, Katherin, at aviatorppg.com or info@aviatorppg.com, and she can take care of you. So, guys, thank you all so much for watching the show. We went on another 13 minutes, and make sure we're going to give you more than just that. Because you were so humble and didn't ask for anything outrageous, Jason, you're going to get a T-shirt, a hat, a coffee mug, and maybe something else. Maybe Kate. That's what she just said. She said that first. That was not me. Don't call HR. We don't have HR. Wonderful. Have a great night. Kate, do you know how to turn this off?
I'm good.
She's good. Guys, thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Have a great one.